So yeah, thanks for being here today, Andrew.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on again, Jasper.
So essentially, could you tell us about yourself? Give us introduce yourself.
I'm Andrew Chubb. I'm the CEO of Awalé Resources, Toronto's venture exchange listed company with the ticker ARIC. And we've got gold and copper exploration play in Côte d'Ivoire, where we've made some significant discoveries and really moving into a really intensive period with 100,000 meters of drilling planned over the next just over 12 months up until the end of next year, which will see us bringing through our very first mineral resource estimates and moving through into a PEA. And look, we're confident in the project, so we think that'll actually move on into PFS drilling and delivery of a PFS in late 2027.
So what's the current cash balance?
We got 15 million in cash Canadian today. So and so that funding is we're lucky in that Newmont is still funding, so that feasibility and mineral resource estimate drilling is actually being funded by Newmont at the moment. So that's a great thing for us as well.
How much does it cost for all in cost here for RC and Diamond?
Um, so it's all depth dependent. So, but so the diamond drilling ranges between, so just the meter cost. This is not including assays. The meter cost is between 130 and 170, $80 a meter, depending on how deep you're going. So, if we drill an 800-meter hole, the average cost is around 155, 160 a meter to drill that entire 800-meter hole. RC drilling, is roughly, most of that's shallower, and so it comes in, at roughly 90 US dollars a meter for RC.
And how if you had assay on top on that?
Um, so assays are, if we do for our multi-element and gold analysis, it's about 45 US dollars a sample.
What's the expected annual G&A spend going forward?
Awalé G&A. So our G&A is about just under 2 million. I think it's 1.8 million Canadian. But on top of that, we're a little bit odd in that we're a 60 million market cap company today, but we've got, over the next 12 months, our Canadian dollar budget is in the realms of 25 to 30 million Canadian dollars, and that's because of the Newmont funding. So we've got a company with operating costs, and logistics that are similar to a much larger market cap company. But and so we actually get a management fee back from Newmont for looking after all, those large budgets. So once you take the management fee back, our G&A is about 800,000 Canadian.
Fantastic. Okay, so then let's begin with Charger. So you just released 4 holes. One of them hit the target Betcha, extended the deposit vertically to 400 meters. 180 meters roughly, deeper than previously known. So 149, you got 18 grams per ton over 6 meters. Could you explain the results from Charger?
Sure. So look, we we squeezed that drilling in right at the end of the program. So we would have actually liked to have drilled more holes and been more systematic with more holes on each level. So we knew when we stepped down, we'd have more confidence in where we were. But so that 100, getting 6 meters at 18 or just under 18, as you mentioned, that's still fantastic grade. And we know that Charger true width does change as you go down the plunge. So we range from, all the drilling we've done has ranged from that sort of, up to 5 meters true width down to, and then out to, 25 or even 30 meters true width in what we call the fold hinge zones. So the good thing about those holes is that 180 meter step down and then another 200 meter step down for hole number 151. Sorry, we have got system down to 600 meters. We know that 151 is just on edge of system, and that if we step across towards the west, that we should hit the breccia. So we've got absolute confidence that Charger is open down plunge, and we're still seeing that high grade mineralization. And for Charger, those sort of 200 meter step downs is for Charger, that's far, and so there is opportunity to drill hinge zones in between those as well. So that 5 meters could be we interpret that to be in a limb zone because it is 5 meters, which is similar to the other interpreted limb zones that we've drilled before. So we think there's an opportunity to get that latter shallow plunging, broader, high grade, intercepts at similar grade to that 20 gram per ton sort of intercept, but over broader intervals. So, that's exciting stuff for Charger as far as we're concerned. It's an excellent proof of concept that we can keep chasing Charger down plunge.
So you're saying that the fold hinge is their thesis is that it would be on the same RL or relative depth, or
no, so it would be in between. So the opportunity is in between. So we've gone down 100 meters from the previous drilling. So 148. I can't remember off the top. We've drilled so many holes now; it's getting hard to remember which hole's which. But 148 was a broader intercept at those sorts of grades. I think it was 15 grams. I think we're at 15 grams over a broader intercept in 148. So that's still in an interpreted hinge zone. Nearly 180 meters up. So there's opportunity for another hinge zone, or maybe even more than one hinge zone in that 180 meter zone, because those hinge zones, the on sort of the vertical size of those, they're in the range of 50 to 80, 50 odd meters, right? So you can have then a limb and then come down and have another hinge. So there's actually room for potentially 2 more hinges just in that first 200 meter step down. And then you step down another 200 meters and there's opportunity for more of those again in between. So we do view that Charger is wide open. And so that's what we'll be targeting in the drilling, what we would call infill drilling for the resource. For when we do the resource estimate, so we'll see what that drilling looks like as we do it. Yeah.
So you're saying that this was a limb zone?
Yeah, that's right. So that would be the interpretation, because it was 6 meters of target geology, and that is what is similar to those zones as well. And in the news release there is some pictures in there that we show sort of what we would call the target, alteration vector towards target breccia. And that alteration vector towards target vector is kind of scalable. So in those zones where the mineralization is thinner like that, you go through those, if you step from right to left in those photos, you go through those alterations on a smaller scale. And when we hit those hinge zones, you can go through those zones of alteration on a tens of meter scale. So even in that hole, we sort of that alteration halo is compressed, if you like. So it's.
But you saw 40 meters of. You mentioned that you saw 40 meters of breccia, but 6 was mineralized. Or
Yeah.
or did I interpret it initially wrong?
6 meters of the quartz breccia. That's right. So. Look, I still, so I, that's where we did see the alteration is kind of compressed in that zone. So I think, we think that there's opportunity to get broader intercepts in between those zones for sure.
But so what did you see around, if you go, left and right essentially of that 6 meters, what kind of alteration and did you see there?
Yeah, that's right. So
Was it
those
still
pictures that you
breccia?
see there, you step through that increasing silica alteration is one of the keys, and then increasing potassic alteration, and you start to see boractinolite as well. So, but so you effectively see that sequence as you move into those breccia zones for sure, and. And the other thing is that sometimes you just get with coarse gold systems, you can just get some internal variability. You've got to remember that you're drilling a 50 millimeter diameter hole or 55 millimeter diameter hole, and sometimes you just don't get as much. If the gold's a bit nuggety, you can actually just miss a little bit. So. And so in those other holes, that's the same thing. So there's 149 and 150, and so 149 got breccia, 150 is an edge of system kind of hole, and then when we step down to 151 again, it looks like edge of system. So and so that where we got the breccia in 149, so we found that we had a little bit of budget left, and you'll see that there's a hole number 154, and 154 is mineralized as well. Didn't get as much thickness of breccia, but it's still mineralized and within system. So all these, we're really happy with what we've seen in that drilling, and we do think there is that opportunity in that 400 meter zone to get those higher gram meter hits like we did in sort of 83, 100 to 148, those holes, to get those similar kind of intercepts at Charger. So and it's open below that 600 meter.
What evidence do you have? What did you see in hole 151, which stepped down, I guess, 600 meters vertically, that there would be another fold hinge? Obviously, it didn't really. I mean, you hit like 1 gram per meter per
so
ton
we're
over a
inferring
meter.
we're inferring there are other fold hinges. So 151. So if you look at that photo in the news release, 151 is in there, and so we're starting to see some stronger development of silica or more quartz in that hole. It's a little bit sheared. There's potassic and hematite alteration, and it really looks like what we would call edge of system. And so because we're drilling from that east side, the inference is, so that exploration vector arrow that's on the long section is that if you step along on that long section, that you will drill inside breccia. And I can't say for sure whether that's going to be a hinge zone or not, but we definitely saw edge of system in that hole number 151. So there is confidence that as we step across that you would intercept some nice mineralization or some high grade mineralization. So it's open, and what we'll be doing is, now that we've got better budget, is you come in and you drill an RL, at least 4 or 5 holes at roughly 30 meters apart, know where you are in that breccia system, and then step down and do the same again, and then step down, rather than taking these big steps just to, they really were exploration holes to see if we could still see Charger at depth, and we can.
And if we look at I mean, obviously, you have the hinge zones, you have the limb zones. So in the limb zones, you have lower grade. What's the minimum mineable grade you think here? As you're now are thinking of mining.
I mean, it's all about grade and width. But underground mining generally is, a benchmark is above 3 grams per ton. So, so the grades that we're getting they're still quite spectacular. And so, that on that long section, there is a purple zone in the middle, and that is, showing the grade weighted average of those intercepts, and it's over 10. Right, and so we've got, it's an extremely high grade system, and so there is no problem with underground mining these sorts of grades. That's for absolute certain, and you would still be getting a high value product, because but the beauty of underground mining in a way is that really you are just mining the high grade. So it makes the head grade of your whole, whatever, your system that you're mining, much better. It's a high value product.
So right now, what's your current understanding of the geometry of charger?
Look at that. That's it. So we do see that steeply dipping and plunging control as a broader control, and then internally we have these. We interpret these flat lying or shallow dipping higher grade zones that have got the they're not necessarily higher grade, they're broader zones within those hinges. So there's broader zones at higher grade within those hinges, and so that interpretation is effectively remains the same. And then so what we're targeting in that Demag zone to the southwest is following that same structure and following that same trend with the concept that we'll hit more of those another breccia zone, and it's not far. We're talking about we're going within hundreds of meters, but we're just stepping along there to see what we can find along that trend. And I think I haven't mentioned, but what we found there is a star on that cross section on that long section, sorry, and on the plan view, where we found an outcrop which was got disseminated sulfides. It's not a big outcrop; it's quite small, because we've mapped there a few times and hadn't seen it before. But it's got sulfides and like a chalcopyrite pyrite, and a little bit of galena. And and the sort of more exotic, if you like, sulfides that we do find at Charger, and it came back at 0.7 grams per ton gold when we analysed that outcrop. So there's encouraging indicators that there is mineralisation under there, and we just need to drill to see what that mineralisation looks like. And we've got the drills turning there right now. So there is two rigs turning at Charger. So we're testing that right now, and then we'll move quite rapidly onto that step down and infill drilling at Charger, moving towards that mineral resource estimate concept.
Yeah, what's the cutoff date for a resource?
Well, for the drilling, we'll cut we have to have so late December, early January will be the last sort of drilling. We'll keep drilling. We're not going to stop drilling, but actual cut off to say, okay, any data beyond this is probably not going to make it into the MRE, because you've got a 4 to 6 week turnaround on assays. And then you have to do the modelling, and then so you can't just sort of say, oh, we'll just keep drilling and it'll make it into the schedule. You've got to actually cut off. So we'll keep drilling on these targets and on exploration targets, but the actual data won't make it into the mineral resource estimate.
And so you released 2 holes from BBM a few weeks ago where you extended mineralization to depth. You hit 21 meters at 3.3 grams per ton gold equivalent, which is also net of recovery. So it's essentially a 20% cut, as you assume. Yes. 80% recoveries across the board. This was 460 meters below surface. Mineralization has previously been found 300 meters below surface. And then you also had a lower grade intercept deeper down.
Yeah.
Could you essentially explain, in your own words, explain the results from BBM?
Yeah, so again, so it's a 200 meter step down, and we've got what, just before I said that benchmark for underground mining is 3 grams. And the key thing there is we keep talking about BBM being robust, but that 3 gram intercept is using a 2 gram, cutoff for the grade weighted average intercept for that interval. So it's not a rubbery interval; it's a robust interval at over 3 grams per ton, even gold equivalent, even after that discount. And so we at that football contact, we're consistently seeing, grades of 3 on average, 3 to 5 grams per ton gold equivalent over true widths of 5 to 25 meters. So that is absolutely every day of the week an underground target. And so to drill that hole 200 meters down and hit that plunging chute, we're very happy. The next hole down, we think we're just under that plunging chute. And we know that if we we're confident that if we step across, that we'll be back inside that chute. And the reason we know that there is, we think the chute's fold controlled. It's quite a tight fold, and so we do see that fold. And when we're on that edge, we do see pick up on folding in the core. So you'll see that there's 2 zones of mineralization in that hole, or 2 zones of higher grade mineralization in that hole amongst that. I think it was 54 meter interval. So it's all mineralized, but there is 2 zones of higher grade within that. And so that's telling us that we're on this drilling through the fold, and so if we step across, we're going to get back into that chute. So there's there's confidence that we can look at BBM as an underground target, and so post that mineral resource estimate, which will incorporate the top 300 meters as open pittable. There's opportunity for underground expansion or growth of BBM. And then there's, that RC drilling is showing that there is sniffs of mineralization along strike. And so there's also opportunity to find other plunging chutes along strike and quite close to that initial BBM sort of discovery as well.
With that, where are you follow up this quarter? Where are you drilling? How much will you be drilling at BBM?
BBM Q4 is really focused on infill drilling for that resource conversion of that top 300 meters. So there's a bit over 4,000 meters planned. Sorry, hang on, let me think about it. Yeah, 4,000 meters planned this quarter. Yeah, that's sort of 1 to 1.5 kilometer main zone. So, we've got most of it drilled at 100 meters, but there are gaps, and there is also in those, we also need to make sure that we've got everything right. So we've got some scissor holes planned in, and things like that as well. So that's what's planned for Q4, and then to test that underground drilling, we're looking at bringing that some underground drilling into the program toward the end of December and into January. So maybe we can get some of that into the MRE, but we'll just have to see how we go.
Will you be drilling any more underground drilling this quarter?
Yeah, that's right. So potentially right at the end in the schedule, it comes in right at the end of December to early January to do more underground drilling, so deeper holes into BBM. In between the ones that we've done, and more holes, horizontally across that plunging chute is the idea. And meters build up very quickly with that. So we've actually got 10,000 meters planned to bring that down to another 500 odd meters below that, or 500 meters going down the chute below that, the 300 meter RL.
Okay, perfect. And you hit, at RC3, you drill a fence, probably maybe 200 meters from the main kilometer.
Yep.
It 25 meters of 0.9 grams per ton gold equivalent. Would that go into the BBM pit?
We'll see, because some of it's actually got quite high copper. So there's a much higher copper to gold in there, and so we'll see what comes out of that, because it's hard to, when you do that modeling, they'll model the copper and the gold. So we'll see how that goes. The interesting thing about that is that straight below there we've got a diamond hole that appears that has potentially hit another higher grade zone or another chute, and the alteration that we see in that hole, there's a lot more in the RC. There's a lot more hematite alteration, and so the core is quite red. There's zones of meters and meters of very red core, and so the chips rather than the core, because it's an RC hole, but that's an indicator that we're sort of peripheral to higher grade mineralization, and maybe that does mean that there is another chute underneath there that we need to chase into as exploration holes.
Fremen, could you summarize your results from your 2,430 meter RC program at the Fremen South?
Yeah, so we've done 2 programs at Fremen now for four. I think it's roughly 4.5. I think it's actually 4,444 meters. And both those programs we've hit mineralization, and it's BBM style mineralization and alteration. It's hosted in granodiorite with strain. Even though it's chips, you can see the biotite is you can see the strain in the rocks. And we're getting intervals that are quite broad. I think there's a 14 meters at 0.6. And then there is also up to, just under 5 grams per ton over 1 meter in one of the holes as well. So, we're getting indicators that there is mineralization, and we've got to remember that this drilling is extremely broad spaced. So, that southern zone, those holes are the central 3 fences. Those fences are about 500 meters apart. And then when you step out to the farthest northwest and southeast fence, that's another 7 to 800 meters step out from those 3 the edge of those 3 internal fences. So, we've actually done some infill termitaria through there now, and we're picking up on quite a high PPB zone. So we're getting quite a few. There is a zone there that is 100 to 200 ppb in the termitaria, and that is coincident with that central 3 drill fences. So this is and we don't know if we're drilling the right way. So there's no outcrop, or there's only sort of subcrop which you don't have confidence in. So we need to get in, and that 5th diamond rig that's coming will be just drilling some holes at Fremen to start with, just to get a handle on the structure, and then we can come back in and do some more percussion drilling and keep chasing Fremen. So, we're encouraged by what we see there, and we, it warrants follow up and spending some more money to see what we can unpick out of that target.
Did you see any actual shears in your core?
Yeah, look, you see, that's the thing with chips. It's you can pick up changes in strain, and so we do see some quite high strain. So you can see that foliation or shearing increase in those chips. So that's what we mean when we're saying BBM style, because the better mineralization at BBM is in those very high. The strain is very high. What we're not seeing at the moment in the drilling, and that's why you start to think about, are you drilling the right way, is that we're seeing mostly granodiorite, especially in that south zone. So where we get that higher grade mineralization at BBM, we've actually, that high strain is in contact with the volcanosedimentary series of rocks. So we're looking. So that's the thing. So if the contact is this way and we're drilling this way, we're never going to hit the contact. You just stay in granodiorite. So we've got to drill a diamond hole and check, because maybe we should be actually drilling the other way. That's the thing with percussion drilling. You don't actually, and no outcrop, you don't actually know until you drill those diamond holes. So we'll find that out this month, and then start doing some more percussion drilling.
Perfect. And Lando, could you summarize the results from the drill program at Lando, which came out earlier this summer?
Lando. So look, again, we got some low grade sniffs, and over broad areas. So there are two things with Lando. Maybe it is just a very large lower grade system close to surface. The geology is different up there. So we've actually got a lot of mafic volcanics like basalt and things like that. So it is quite different from that perspective, and the mineralization is mostly within those basalts. The difference in the drilling that we've done is that we haven't really seen any intrusive rocks, and all the better all the discoveries that we talked about, they're associated with intrusions. And so conceptually, if you think in a tier one conceptual, because the footprint at Lando is so big, maybe because we've only done quite shallow drilling at Lando, we're not seeing the intrusion or the intrusions, and maybe they're deeper. And so the airborne gravity gradient will be interesting. We're flying airborne gravity gradient now. It will be finished this week. And what it looks at is the difference in density of the rocks, right? So intrusions have different density to surrounding rocks, and particularly if your surrounding rocks are volcanics. So there could be, that big footprint might actually be more related to, maybe there is a deeper structural target there that's in contact or associated with an intrusion that is deeper that we're not picking up on surface. So, Lando is not dead as a target as far as we're concerned. And we have some, big thinking conceptual ideas for Lando. And hopefully, we can convince Newmont as well to spend some budget on some of those conceptual ideas. But I think the airborne gravity will be helpful on that as well. So that's one of the key things. We're talking about all this drilling we're doing and 100,000 meters of drilling. So there's 15,000 meters that's from Awalé's budget, budgeted for 2026, and that's pure Greenfields exploration. But within that 88,000 meters that we've got planned on the joint venture, a significant portion of that is set aside for exploration drilling. So we still think we can make, it's a little bit odd. Most people, when they're going into mineral resource estimates, they're not thinking about exploration holes. But, we need to give it the best shot to turn it into a Newmont scale play. And so we are still drilling exploration, and the airborne gravity gradient that we're flying now will be another layer of information in our targeting, and we'll be doing some more targeting and then moving. Once we've done that, we'll be moving, we've got lots of geochemical targets that we haven't touched. And and we know that intrusions are really a part of our mineralization story, and we think the younger intrusions, which are smaller, we see them as little pearls, if you like, within the mag, and we're hoping that the AGG will help us delineate those better. And look, that will just turn in. There will be a lot of discovery drilling commencing in December, January on the joint venture as well, with the idea that we can make more discoveries on the joint venture ground. So it's going to be it's a really interesting time from that perspective, and so Lando comes into that as well, and so 2026 is a really interesting year for Awalé, because we've got first mineral resource estimates, a PEA, potential for discoveries on the 100% ground, and we're also doing this more discovery drilling on the joint venture ground. So there's a the best case scenario for the project is really quite spectacular. If we start to get sniffs or discoveries on the 100% ground, have a positive MRE and PEA, and make discoveries on the joint venture as well. That absolutely, that's the best case scenario for the project, and that would be quite the year if we have all of those things come together.
How much more time do you have to make a new discovery and showcase that? I mean, this could be 3 million ounces of high grade, to showcase that it could be a Newmont scale project before they could they.
Look, I can't. I don't know. They don't tell us that. What we do know is we've got the budget to really go for these things this year. And we've planned out all those meters. So we've planned those meters, and we will drill them. So we'll and then I guess the only way for me to talk about it is Newmont is there until they're not, and like any company, I'm sure that they are continually assessing and testing. They've got many joint venture projects globally, and so they are all being ranked against each other, but not only against each other, but against their internal stage gate system on whether a project's going to fly for them or not. So what I can tell you is today we clearly rank well. We've got a significant budget to go into the program. Like, Newmont knows that there is the 88,000 meters planned, and they are funding that, because under the joint venture agreement, until we deliver 2 million ounces of gold in a mineral resource estimate, that's of gold, that Newmont has not reached the terms of the phase 2 earn-in. So and that's quite clear. So they are clearly bullish on the scalability and upside potential of the project still, because they are funding this drilling that we're talking about now. So that's a really positive thing for the project, and a positive thing for Awalé.
Okay, so you have the short Demag zones. Yeah, BBM is also expandable. But when will you announce what greenfield drilling you will do? I guess in Q1.
I think once we've layered that up with the airborne gravity gradient. So we've done broad space geochemistry, sort of 400 space termitaria sampling over, I guess, the central portion of the central north of the property. So between Charger, Empire, and Lando, like going up the middle, it was a big gap in our geochem database. We've covered that now. We're starting to see some, that we haven't got all the results, but we're starting to see results come through from that. And so once we've layered all that up with the new airborne gravity gradient, I think we'll let the market know what we're thinking about as new discovery targets within that joint venture ground. And there is also Odienné West, which was only granted earlier this year. In Q2, I think it was granted. So we will been doing geochemistry, ground geochemistry within that permit as well. So maybe on the joint venture there will be targets pop out of that Odienné West permit as well.
How much are you looking to drill on your 100% owned permit this quarter and also next quarter? And will you start to go into, will it do a first pass test at Sama and Sado, or is that later next year?
Yeah, so Sama and Sado are in a target generation phase, and unlikely. Well, they won't. They just won't see any drilling this quarter. It'll be in the first quarter of next year that we see the drilling there, and then Fremen, the complete program at Fremen is still being planned. What I do know is that we've got 3 diamond holes to drill now, and then based on that, we'll plan more percussion drilling. So, but the diamond drilling is to just orient where we are, and come in and do more percussion drilling beyond that. So, and that percussion drilling should happen before the end of the in this quarter as well. But we just need to get in and drill those diamond holes first.
Perfect. And what is the budget now for the coming 2 years for the JV?
We've got an 8 million Canadian budget set aside to the end of 2026. And that includes that 15,000 meters of drilling. So that's.
Sorry, I meant for the JV, the joint venture, for the 2 years. How much is budgeted?
Yeah. So look, I'll be honest here. Newmont doesn't like me talking about budget numbers, but we have got, it's mostly drilling plus the airborne gravity gradient that is, part of it. That is the bulk of the program. So, we've got 88,000 meters of drilling planned. Sort of at least probably 80% of that is going to be diamond drilling, and then the airborne gravity gradient. And an airborne gravity gradient survey costs about $500,000 to do the airborne gravity gradient survey over the Odienné east and west permits, but so it's a significant budget, and where the key thing is 88,000 meters of drilling. So what does that mean for Awalé? Lots and lots of results coming through for the whole period. And our first mineral resource estimate, our first PEA, and potentially discoveries on the JV, as well as potential discoveries on the 100% ground. And so it's a interesting time for Awalé.
Okay, and could you give us a rough timeline for the coming 2 years for primarily the JV?
Yeah, so hopefully early Q2. We're shooting, the target is early Q2 for mineral resource estimate, late Q2, early Q3 for PEA, and then moving into feasibility work, pre-feasibility work beyond that. And look, with the exploration drilling and all those sorts of things, at certain junctures through that 2026 to 2027 period, there'll be updates to the mineral resource estimate. But the idea is to deliver a PFS on the project, in late, Q4 2027. That is the target to complete a PFS for the project. That's a little bit of I guess that's a bit of a rubber band, because if we make significant discoveries in that period, we would probably want to be bringing those things into PFS as well. So that would extend the delivery date of PFS. But based on just BBM Charger Empire, if that's what it was, the idea is that we would be delivering PFS in late 2027.
So with that, where do you envision Awalé at the end of next year?
Oh, look, that's the thing. Like, so best case scenario, I think our market cap could be well and truly more than 5 times what we are today. So there's so many different scenarios. So there's the scenario, I guess, A is Newmont stays in. We've had a significant discovery on the joint venture. We're looking at Newmont scale project, high valuations, and Awalé gets a re-rate based on that. 50 million is not a percentage, 20-25% of a proper tier one project. B, we make discoveries on the 100% ground. Along with that, there should be a re-rate in Awalé if we've actually particularly made standalone discoveries on the 100% ground. And then the third scenario is there a new, it is a possibility that we don't know, which is a Newmont exit. But then if there's a Newmont exit, we're buying back a project that is mid-tier scale. And if you benchmark mid-tier, junior companies with a couple of million ounces in inferred resources, their market capitalizations are sort of, at the moment, sort of 400-500 million Canadian dollars. So I think, the scenarios for Awalé over the next 12 to 18 months all of them are winning scenarios.